These are two phones, same brands but 1,200 ringgit apart, which is around 300 USD. And you might be wondering, just add a bit more and get the F8 Ultra is so much better. Well, I thought so too, but after months of using these two phones back to back, in two of the most important categories for most people like you, the cheaper phone wins, but you might regret this. So before you stretch the budget, watch first and buy smart. Alright, here's where we stand. The POCO X8 Pro Max is at 1,999 ringgit, the phone that I crowned the best under 2,000 ringgit in my buying guide. And then there's the POCO F8 Ultra, which is at 3,199 ringgit, the same brand's true flagship. 1,200 ringgit apart, which uses the same software but very different phones. So in this video, you'll find out what the differences really is and whether or not it's worth your money. Now, starting with how both phones look and feel, now this is where the F8 Ultra immediately takes the lead, because if you pick this up, it just feels different. The denim blue variant especially was really nice, grippy, felt solid and very premium. In fact, if you place the POCO F8 Ultra next to an iPhone 17 Pro with the screen off, you could actually pick up the wrong phone. So yeah, that level of build quality is what we are talking on this particular phone. Now the phone also does not wobble when you type it on the surface, which sounds like a small thing until you use a phone which wobbles and realize how irritating it is. But the POCO X8 Pro Max though still shines above its price point visually, because the subtle two-tone back, the matte frame, the matte back panel, and of course the zero fingerprint situation absolutely holds its own on the premium department. But here's where the X8 Pro has some bragging rights, because while both phones have IP68 rating, but the X8 Pro Max also carries IP69, so that has the high pressure water jet, not just underwater dunking on a 1,999 ringgit phone. Then there's those RGB light rings around the camera lenses, where POCO calls this the backlight effects, which is perfect for notification, calls, music, gaming with customizable colors and brightness. We can think of this as POCO's version of Nothing's glyph interface, which is a very interesting take to that. But the trade-off on the X8 Pro Max is the very heavier weight at 218 grams, which is heavier than Liverpool's regret of sticking with Arne Slot only to finish 5th last season. So thank God for the sack. So if you want a lighter premium feel on your hand every single day and something very unique, this phone, the POCO F8 Ultra, wins this round comfortably. Now moving on to the screen, both phones has a very gorgeous AMOLED panel with 120Hz refresh rate. Now the X8 Pro Max is a 6.83 inch and has 3500 nits of peak brightness, deep blacks, 12-bit color depth, Dolby Vision support for Netflix and other streaming platforms, and in bright sunlight or in a very bright environment like here in the studio, this screen holds perfectly. Then the F8 Ultra's flat screen is also very stunning, the best flat screen smartphone experience available right now, and is a tiny bit bigger at 6.9 inches instead. And while the peak brightness is the same, but I did notice that it does become a little dimmer outdoors sometimes. But of course, you can always manually crank the brightness up. So if you spend a lot of times outdoor, keep that in mind. Now both screens are absolutely great for daily use, but on a pure brightness and sunlight performance, the POCO X8 Pro Max take this only by a very small margin, and both phones has great durability on the screen with Corning Gorilla Glass 7i on the POCO X8 Pro Max and POCO's very own POCO Shield Glass on the POCO F8 Ultra. Now when it comes to performance, the F8 Ultra has a true flagship silicon chipset, the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5, which is a 3nm chip, and the X8 Pro Max runs on the MediaTek Dimensity 9500S, which is also a 3nm chip. But when it comes to everyday use, you're not going to find a meaningful differences when it comes to using these two phones every single day. When it comes to scrolling Instagram, opening apps, streaming or watching videos, both handle it without breaking a sweat. But where the gap shows is in the most extreme gaming scenarios, and here's what really surprised me, because Call of Duty Mobile run at solid 120 FPS on very high settings on the POCO X8 Pro Max, and Wuthering Waves maxed out at 60 FPS almost the entire session on both phones. Now the F8 Ultra has a higher performance ceiling, but for 99% of what you actually throw at it, the X8 Pro also keeps up. But where the POCO F8 Ultra pulls ahead is in the gaming experience of actually playing with the phone because of how well it sits on your hands. The grip, the weight distribution for long sessions feels a bit better when it comes to gaming in a way that the POCO X8 Pro Max does not match. All of which means that for pure numbers, the gap is much smaller than what the 1,200 ringgit difference suggests, but when it comes to a full gaming experience, I would say that the POCO F8 Ultra has the edge. But when it comes to cameras, this is where you'll probably make your decision. Now a quick recap on the specs. The POCO X8 Pro Max gives you 50 megapixel 26mm main sensor with OIS at f1.5 aperture and an 8 megapixel 15mm ultra wide and a 20 megapixel selfie camera. So there's no telephoto lens, so any zoom beyond 1x is digital. Then the POCO F8 Ultra gives you a 25mm main and 18mm ultra wide and a periscope 5x zoom at 115mm. So right away, the POCO F8 Ultra already has the versatility advantage. But when it comes to daylight photos, both phones produce natural, nicely balanced images with great dynamic range. Now the POCO X8 Pro Max colors are also clean, not oversaturated unlike brands that makes every photo look like an uncle who got excited playing with vibrant filters on a phone for the very first time. Now the POCO F8 Ultra shots are equally clean and consistent, but when you start zooming, the differences becomes very real because on the POCO X8 Pro Max, the 2x digital zoom is still surprisingly solid, but when it comes to 4x onwards, here's where the quality starts to drop noticeably and it gets even worse at max time zoom. But the POCO F8 Ultra though, that 5x periscope lens is a completely different story, which is sharp, detailed and hold its own even at night. But don't go beyond 10x on either of these phones because beyond that, even the F8 Ultra can't save you. When it comes to night photography after the recent update, the POCO X8 Pro Max actually shocked me over here, but now it has solid highlights with great shadow details as well. Then the POCO F8 Ultra's ultra wide at night is also equally impressive. So props to both phones because neither of the phone turns a night sky into a fake blue tone look. Now portrait mode on both phones are also consistently strong for human subjects, but the selfie video on the POCO X8 Pro Max is where the points drop really hard because this front camera only records up to 1080p, and if you know me, you know exactly what I think about that.
No! God, please, no! No!
But the F8 Ultra has 4K front video, which is really great. So for anyone who shoots selfie content regularly, the F8 Ultra has a clear advantage over here. For video overall, just stick to the 4K lenses on both phones. And on the POCO X8 Pro Max, do not try to zoom in beyond 1x or God forbid 2x zoom when it comes to videos on this particular phone. So bottom line, when it comes to cameras, if photos are your priority and you don't zoom much, then the POCO X8 Pro Max holds its own surprisingly well. But if you want versatility, a real telephoto lens, and of course 4K selfie video, then the F8 Ultra is a better camera system. Now if you find this video helpful so far, do give this video a nice big thumbs up to tell the people running the YouTube algorithm that this video was good for you, and a subscription will be extra sweet too. So thank you, and thank you very much in advance. Okay, so now let's go into the two categories that I mentioned in the beginning of this video, and this is the first one, which is the battery. Now this is where the comparison becomes very one-sided, right? Because this phone, the POCO X8 Pro Max, has 8,500 milliamps of battery, and that is bigger than Arsenal's hopes of winning the Champions League match against PSG. Then the POCO F8 Ultra has 6,500 milliamps, which is 2,000 milliamps less. Now in a real world use, here is what it actually looks like. Now on the POCO X8 Pro Max, you're looking at 2.5 days consistently on a single charge with mixed use of gaming, videos, scrolling and everything in between. So yes, this is basically a power bank that basically makes phone calls. But for the POCO F8 Ultra though, for a phone with 6,500 milliamps of battery, there's still this annoyance of the initial battery drain still after 3 months, where the first 2% to 10% just disappears in just 9 minutes of screen on time, but across 2 full days of mixed use, you're getting about 6.5 hours of total screen on time, and that is less than half of what the POCO X8 Pro Max delivers. But for the POCO F8 Ultra, it has a 50 watts of wireless charging though, while the POCO X8 Pro Max has no wireless charging at all. But here's the honest reality, because everything only makes sense if your battery can actually last at least a day, and if you're charging twice as often, wireless or not. That battery life gap matters. So obviously the battery category goes to the POCO X8 Pro Max, and that is not even close. Now, if you want a written version of this video, we do have one at our website at www.adamlobo.tv. Links to the website will be down below, where we also have some daily tech news and daily tech tips over there too. Now, the second category that I talked about in the beginning of this video goes the other way around entirely, which is the overall audio, because the POCO X8 Pro Max has Dolby Atmos with dual speakers, and I'm going to be straight with you when it comes to the audio. It sounds very hollow. Now, for a phone that is 1,999 ringgit with Dolby Atmos on the label, I heard better speakers on a cheaper phone. Now, I did see some online comments and reviews about people saying that the speakers are good, but trust me, as a former musician, I know what audio is. But for the POCO F8 Ultra though, it has the Bose subwoofer system at the back, and you'll feel the difference immediately because the bass has actual weight, where the mids and the highs cut through cleanly because of that. And when I put it side by side against the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra and the iPhone 17 Pro Max in a direct audio test, the F8 Ultra sounds so much better that it really surprised me. It does sound like a mini soundbar and a woofer in your hand. So if audio matters to you even a little bit, the POCO F8 Ultra wins in this particular category by a very wide margin, as big as a margin of the battery differences between both of these phones. And honestly, this is the one area where that 1,200 ringgit premium feels a little more justified. So in conclusion, the POCO X8 Pro Max or the POCO F8 Ultra. Let's cut straight to it, because the POCO F8 Ultra wins on this particular areas: build quality and premium feel, camera versatility with a real telephoto reach, 4K selfie video, and an audio system that is on a completely different level. Then you have the POCO X8 Pro Max, which wins on this particular area, which is battery life by a massive margin, an IP69 protection, display brightness, and a value for money. But here is my honest recommendation. For most people watching this video, the POCO X8 Pro Max at 1,999 ringgit is the smarter buy, because it has a near flagship performance, a battery that goes deep in day 2, IP68 and IP69, Wi-Fi 7, Bluetooth 6 and also eSIM, and all of that with keeping 1,200 ringgit in your pocket. Now that is real money. But the F8 Ultra makes sense if audio quality is something that you simply cannot compromise on. You create content and need that telephoto versatility and the 4K selfie video as well, and how a phone feels in your hands after a year or two. But here's my final thought though. At 3,199 ringgit, the POCO F8 Ultra is competing against the Samsungs, the Vivos and others within this price bracket, and in that company it has to work harder to prove itself. As for the POCO X8 Pro Max at 1,999 ringgit, almost has nothing to worry about at this particular price point. So do check out my in-depth review of this over here.